I like the story that comedian Bill Bailey tells of when he went to a Brazilian zoo and was allowed to go into a jaguar enclosure with the handler. The handler, in his broken English, explained that it was important to always approach the jaguar from the front. So Bill started to crouch and manoeuvre to the front of the jaguar when the handler suddenly dragged him back and said, "Sorry, I meant never." The two words, completely interchangeable and yet with so different meanings. Now I have an interchangeable and different problem of my own with a 13-year-old foster child. He has suffered trauma and damage in his early years, which means that he thinks and acts just about the same as my 6-year-old grandson. This is his developmental age. It's a common result of trauma where a child becomes stuck emotionally and mentally at the age that the trauma occurred. Even the physical development of his body seems to have slowed as he shows no obvious signs of puberty. He is a sweet, at times, 13-year-old who lines up little cars and plays with small plastic figures, army men, and wishes that his middle name was Thunderbirds. As you would expect from any young infant, which is where he is developmentally, he shows his displeasure at being denied something that he wants by having a tantrum. And it's not a pretty sight, I can tell you. And as with any infant, he doesn't mind where he has his tantrum. It can be in a supermarket aisle, a shopping centre, or the living room of a family friend. I'm sure that we'd have died of embarrassment a few years, my wife and I, but now we can take it in our stride. The truth is that we know more about child behaviour and child trauma now. So yes, his behaviour can be embarrassing or irritating or both if you let it affect you. But we have to look behind the displayed behaviour and understand what is causing him to behave like he does. We call it being the adult. I admit at times we do have to gently and through gritted teeth have to remind each other to be the adult, and quite often you get the urge to explain to all that's watching that he's not actually your flesh and blood. But his outbursts never achieve his aim of embarrassing us into giving in, even if they do provide good viewing for the watching masses. It's difficult to get him to move on from where he is developmentally. It's not impossible, of course, and my job as foster carer is to help him progress by providing the security and the stability that his mind needs to allow him to move on, really through attachment. Children with developmental delay like this create a huge problem at school because classes are age-based rather than based on developmental age. So when developmental age is below his actual age, a child will find it difficult to engage in class and therefore can disturb the others as he shows distress with where they are and at what they're supposed to be doing. In primary school, the symptoms are just being identified, so classes could really be affected as it takes time to realise that there's a problem with the child, and then they have to identify what to do. If this behaviour continues through to secondary school, then the child's attitude will have hardened and it becomes a hard slog and nigh on impossible to do anything but attempt to contain the behaviour. Dr. Foster Cline, in his book Understanding and Treating the Severely Disturbed Child, listed 17 common warning signs of attachment disorder. 1. Superficially engaging and charming. 2. Lacks eye control on parental terms. 3. Indiscriminately affectionate with strangers. It's quite a scary one, that one. 4. Not affectionate on parental terms, not particularly cuddly. 5, destructive to self, others and material things. Accident prone, you could put it down to. 6, cruel to animals. 7, lies about the obvious. 8, no impulse control, frequently acts hyperactive. 9, learning lags, behind in his learning. 10, lack of cause and effect thinking. 11, lack of conscience. Say that one again. 11, lack of conscience. No empathy there, basically, I think. 12, abnormal eating patterns. 13, poor peer relationships. 14, preoccupation with fire, scary one. 15, persistent with nonsense questions and incessant chatter. 16, appropriately demanding and clingy. And 17, abnormal speech patterns. Now, I love this list as it does seem to cover all we need to look out for as foster carers. I am saddened, however, because this list almost reads as a character summary for my lad, with particular emphasis on the points 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 15, 16. Quite a few of those. I suppose I should be grateful for his apparent lack of interest in fire. At this particular moment, I draw to a point 5, and his ability to be destructive to self and particularly material things. He took his relatively new bike over to the local park yesterday. It's just around the corner, and he wasn't there for more than half an hour. On his return, we could no longer turn the gears, and the saddle had split. How on earth do you split a bicycle saddle? By sitting on it. Only my little lad could do that. At the moment, my wife and I are struggling to teach him how to tell the time. But this little lad genuinely struggles with the very concept of time. When we pointed out that his mother used to go to the same school as him, he asked if his mum ever got to play with his school friends. The refusal of his mind to develop over time seems strangely echoed in his inability to understand the concept of time. The two interchangeable and different words, going back to the Bill Bailey story, are that he can't seem to grasp to, as in minutes to the hour, and past, as in minutes past the hour. We've likened a clock to runners crossing a finish line, to soldiers on a circular road up and down to the top of a hill. There are so many ways you can try and define the concept of to something and past something without starting to repeat the scenario. We therefore take every fleeting opportunity to get the message across to him, to try to get him to understand the difference. So on our latest trip to the shops, whilst waiting for our turn to be served at the till, we get the chance to ask if we're coming up to the till or are we past the till. And by Jove, he understands that one. So, thinking we're on a bit of a roll, we ask him to tell us the time, which turns out to be a bit of a mistake. 25 past 2 somehow becomes 5 to 2. The long hand on the 5, which denotes the 25 minutes past the hour, has been taken as 5 minutes, and the concept of to and past has been confused again. That, at least, is how we guess he got the answer he came up with. Interchangeable hands of time with completely different results. As you can see, we've got a long way to go, and time, it seems, will always have a great hold on this lad. Sorry, should that have been never?